A Category 2 cyclone is about to slam into Western Australia's coastline in the next few hours, and if you live anywhere between Carnarvon and Geraldton, what happens tonight could dump 150 millimetres of rain on your doorstep before sunrise. But here is what almost nobody is talking about yet. There is a second system quietly spinning up in the Coral Sea right now, and if the models are right, Queensland could be staring down a Category 2 or even Category 3 cyclone by next weekend. Stay with me, because at the 5-minute mark, I am going to show you exactly which cities and towns face the highest flood risk over the next 7 days. And trust me, some of these numbers are going to surprise you. Right now, as of Monday, the 9th of February 2026, Tropical Cyclone Mitchell is bearing down on the Western Australian coast. This is not a weak system. Category 2 means sustained winds strong enough to rip roofing iron off houses, snap tree branches like matchsticks, and turn loose objects into dangerous projectiles. The centre of that storm is expected to cross the coast near Carnarvon between 5 and 6 this afternoon Western Australian time, give or take a couple of hours. That is your window. If you are in that region and you have not secured loose items, charged your phone and filled your bathtub with water, you are running out of time right now. But here is the twist most people miss with cyclones. The centre making landfall is not the end of the danger, it is barely the halfway point. The rain bands extend hundreds of kilometres out from the eye. The flooding does not peak until hours after the wind dies down. And the storm surge along low-lying coastal areas can push seawater inland in ways that catch people completely off guard. So let me walk you through exactly what happens hour by hour, city by city, because the next 72 hours are going to reshape the weather picture for almost every state in Australia. And if you think your state is safe, wait until you hear what is brewing for the weekend. Starting with Western Australia, Cyclone Mitchell at 2 o'clock this afternoon, Western time, sits just north of Carnarvon. The heaviest rain bands are still slightly offshore at that point, which is actually bad news because ocean contact means the storm keeps feeding on warm water, keeps its energy, keeps those destructive winds spinning. By 6 o'clock this evening, the eye crosses the coast. Carnarvon, you are in the direct firing line. Expect wind gusts exceeding 150 kilometres per hour near the centre. Rainfall rates of 30 to 50 millimetres per hour are possible right through Monday night. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. By Tuesday afternoon, Cyclone Mitchell has moved inland and starts to weaken, but do not let that fool you. The 24-hour rainfall totals from Monday afternoon to Tuesday afternoon paint a dramatic picture. Denham, sitting just south of the track, could see 150 millimetres in that single 24-hour window. Areas inland from Geraldton are looking at 80 millimetres, and if a thunderstorm cell parks itself over your town, that number could easily double. We are talking potential flash flooding in areas that have been bone dry for months. Dry ground does not absorb water quickly. It runs off, it floods. The wet weather does not stop at the cyclone zone either. A massive convergence line stretches from Western Australia right through the heart of the continent and out into New South Wales. That line is dragging thunderstorms and rain with it like a curtain being pulled across the country. So if you thought this was just a Western Australia story, think again. Do not skip ahead because the eastern states forecast coming up next has some numbers that will genuinely shock you. Now, what about the rest of the country? Let us go state by state. South Australia. Tuesday is your day to watch. As Cyclone Mitchell collapses inland, it pushes a mass of hot, humid air southward ahead of it. Adelaide and surrounding areas expect a noticeably hotter Tuesday with rising humidity. It will feel oppressive. But the actual rain from the cyclone remnants does not amount to much for South Australia. The real moisture stays further north. By Wednesday, the leftovers of Mitchell are centred over South Australia, but they are a shadow of the original storm. Heat and humidity in the top 2/3 of the state, but coastal areas get relief. A southerly change is on its way, pulled in by a new high-pressure system way off the coast of Western Australia. That polar push arrives Wednesday night into Thursday. Temperatures will drop sharply. It will feel like a completely different season within 12 hours. Victoria, listen carefully because your forecast has a clear split down the middle and it is not what most people expect. East of Melbourne, you have a genuine chance of meaningful rain this week. The eastern half of Victoria, particularly the mountainous areas and the Great Dividing Range, could pick up 5 to 10 millimetres from the cold front pushing through on Thursday, with some elevated areas potentially reaching 10 to 15 millimetres. That is not drought breaking, but for gardens, tanks and stressed pastures, every drop counts. West of Melbourne though, and this is the part that hurts, you are largely missing out. Rainfall totals west of the city are minimal. below 5 millimetres in most places. If you need rain west of Melbourne, you essentially need a thunderstorm to park directly over your property, and that is a lottery. Thursday is the key day for Victoria. A cold front sweeps through, delivering a line of showers and isolated thunderstorms. The change will be noticeable. Temperatures drop behind it, but the rainfall totals for most populated areas remain frustratingly low. If you are a farmer in the Wimmera or the Western District, I wish I had better news. The models just are not showing significant moisture making it to your paddocks this week. The Eastern Gippsland region has the best odds of seeing something useful, but even there, we are talking single-digit millimetre totals unless a thunderstorm lines up perfectly. Tasmania, you are sitting between two high-pressure systems for most of this week, which essentially means you are in a weather no-man-s land. Variable winds that will shift direction by Sunday. A few hit-and-miss showers are possible, particularly along the west coast and higher ground, but large parts of the state stay dry. Hobart, Launceston, Devonport, you are unlikely to see anything meaningful in the rain gauge this week. A small coastal shower here and there, but nothing to write home about. The polar push from Wednesday night brings some cooler air your way and a brief taste of autumn, but rainfall remains scarce. If you have been waiting for a decent soaking, this is not your week, unfortunately. Now, New South Wales and the Australian Capital Territory, this is where the forecast gets really dynamic, so do not miss this. Wednesday is your hotter day. The heat pushes right across New South Wales and around Canberra as the remnants of Mitchell S energy redistribute across the continent. Temperatures will spike, but then Thursday as cold front arrives and with it comes a line of showers and thunderstorms. Rainfall totals for most of New South Wales sit in a similar range to Victoria, around 5 to 10 millimetres, maybe up to 15 in the ranges. But here is the big story for New South Wales, and this is the part I promised you at the 5-minute mark. By Friday, the weather pattern shifts dramatically. High pressure balloons out from Bass Strait and the Tasman Sea, and that creates a squeeze effect between the high pressure off the New South Wales coast and the lower pressure sitting over Queensland. Northeasterly and northerly winds ramp up along the New South Wales coast. And right on the border zone between New South Wales and Queensland, from just south of Brisbane down into the Northern Rivers, that is where the heavens open. We are talking 100 millimetres possible along the main ranges near the border. That is serious rainfall. That water feeds into streams and rivers already carrying some flow. If you live in the Northern Rivers region, the Tweed, the Richmond, the Clarence catchments, Friday is the day to start watching water levels. Make sure your gutters are clear, check that your downpipes are not blocked, and know your nearest evacuation route just in case. This is not about panic. This is about being smart. Port Macquarie up through to Brisbane and inland to places like Warwick and Toowoomba. Some of the modelled rainfall totals for the week ahead are between 200 and 300 millimetres at the highest elevations. Those are numbers we have not seen in these areas for quite some time. And remember, this rainfall total does not even factor in what might happen if that coral sea low tracks closer to the coast. If both systems combine their moisture, the numbers could go even higher. But here is the critical detail. You go west of Sydney, over the Blue Mountains, into the Western Plains, and the numbers fall off a cliff. It is a completely different world out there. Dry, very dry. The rain stays locked to the coastal ranges and the eastern slopes. Queensland, this is the state that needs to pay the most attention this entire week, and here is why. First, the day-to-day thunderstorm activity. From Tuesday through to the weekend, low-pressure zones are draped across Queensland, the Northern Territory, and the Kimberley region of Western Australia. That means thunderstorms day after day in roughly the same areas. Some places in inland Queensland could see 150 millimetres in just 24 hours by the weekend. These are not gentle showers. These are the kind of storms that dump rain so fast the ground cannot cope. But the second part is even bigger, and this is the plot twist I mentioned at the start. Out in the Coral Sea, near the Solomon Sea, there is a low pressure system that has been showing up in the forecast models for 2 weeks now. 2 weeks. That is unusual persistence. When a system keeps appearing in the long-range modelling over and over again, it starts to earn credibility. And when you zoom into the latest model data, that low looks like a tropical cyclone. It has the circular structure. It has the pressure drop. The models are suggesting it could reach Category 2 or potentially Category 3 intensity by early next week. Now, I am not here to scare anyone. That is not what this channel does. We deal in facts, data, and preparation. The tracking is still uncertain. At this stage, the most likely path takes it southeast out to sea away from the Queensland coast. But here is the problem. There is high pressure sitting further to the south that could act like a wall, deflecting that system back towards the coast. If that high pressure ridge shifts even slightly, the cyclone track bends westward and suddenly coastal Queensland is in play. We simply do not know yet. What we do know is this: if tomorrow S model runs still show this system in the same position with the same intensity, that will be 5 or 6 consecutive days of consistent modelling. And in weather forecasting, that kind of consistency starts to move a system from possibility into probability territory. The Bureau of Meteorology will likely issue their own advisory if this trend continues, so keep checking their updates alongside mine. For those of you in Cairns, Townsville, Mackay, the Whitsundays, and even further south, this is not a week to stop checking the forecasts. I will be updating this tomorrow, Tuesday, and if that coral sea low has disappeared from the models, I will tell you straight away. But if it is still there, we need to start having a serious conversation about preparation. Here is what I need from you right now. Drop a comment below with the city or town where you live. Tell me your location and I will make sure tomorrow S Update covers your area in more detail, whether you are in Perth watching the tail end of Mitchell, in Adelaide waiting for that southerly change, in Melbourne hoping for rain, in Sydney watching the heat build, in Brisbane keeping one eye on the Coral Sea, or in Hobart wondering if anything will happen at all. I want to hear from you. Your comment helps me prioritise which areas to focus on in the next video. Let me give you a quick summary so you know exactly what to prepare for. Western Australia, Carnarvon to Geraldton, Monday night through Tuesday is your danger window. Peak intensity at landfall this evening, 150 millimetres possible. Secure your property now. South Australia, hotter Tuesday. Relief arriving Wednesday night with that southerly change. Minimal rainfall for most areas. Victoria, Thursday, cold front is your best chance. East of Melbourne does better than west. 5 to 15 millimetres in the ranges. Do not expect drought-breaking rain. New South Wales, hot Wednesday, cold change Thursday. But the big rain event is Friday along the Northern Rivers and border ranges. 200 to 300 millimetres at highest elevations over the full week. Queensland, thunderstorms building day after day from Tuesday through the weekend. 150 millimetres in 24 hours possible in inland areas. And that Coral Sea low remains the wild card that could change everything by next week. Tasmania, mostly dry with variable winds, a few stray showers but nothing significant. One more thing before I go. Tomorrow's update is going to be critical because we will have fresh data on Cyclone Mitchell S aftermath. We will know more about that Coral Sea system, and I will be breaking down the Thursday cold front timing hour by hour for the eastern states. If that Coral Sea low is still in the models tomorrow, I am going to dedicate an entire segment to preparation steps for Queensland, including which towns sit in the potential impact zone and what you should be doing right now to get ahead of it. That segment alone could save you a lot of stress later in the week. You do not want to miss that. Share this video with anyone you know on the East Coast or in Western Australia, because the more people who are prepared, the safer everyone is. I will see you tomorrow, Tuesday, right here. Drop your location in the comments and let us get